Welcome back to the Road Show. This morning in the Buzz, a new government study just released says teenagers are less worried about pregnancy.
And while fewer teens in America are having babies, it appears their attitudes are changing.
Some shocking statistics came out of this study that was done by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The results were based on face-to-face interviews with teens ages 15 to 19 at their homes.
It found that about 42% of never-married teens had sex at least once. 64% of teenage boys surveyed says it was okay for a girl to have a baby out of marriage.
So what does this say about the attitudes of teens? Responsibility. Let's start with that. I mean,
well, it shows that they're teens if they're just so matter-of-factly about, girls getting pregnant and whatnot, right? Do you agree? No? Maybe?
Well, I was going to say, here's my whole take on this, and it has to do with a lot of other things. This is coming from someone who still gets a pit in their stomach and nervous when they see a police car on the side of the road with a radar gun.
Right.
Because I know a lot of teenagers are like, whatever, who cares about the cops? They mouth off to them and all that.
Yeah.
I call it a no fear of consequence. It's a generation with no fear of consequence, and it has a wide range of areas that covers. No fear of authority, and this isn't everybody, but more than I think are than aren't, and it kind of trickles down to the no fear of consequence if you do have a baby. It's quite a responsibility.
Well, you had some interesting...
Got a couple of numbers here.
A little research. Wow.
I'm impressed. This kind of explains 3 in every 10 girls in the U.S. becomes pregnant before the age of 20, which I find mind-boggling. Teenage boys, a quarter of teenage boys say they would be pleased if it happened. Which you can embrace it and be a good dad, but I don't.
That's interesting.
If you're a teenage boy and you're engaged in,
they don't understand what they're getting into.
Yeah, if you're having sex and somebody gets pregnant, a quarter of them would be happy about it. All right, this one is kind of freaks me out. The number of boys who chose they don't want to get a girl pregnant is for the reason for not having sex. Only 12%.
Interesting.
Well, that would be my number one fear. If I was a teenager and I was involved in having sex, I think getting a girl pregnant would be my number one fear. Especially if she knew my real name. Well, then that would be...
But you are a little bit older. You have the benefit of knowing, how...
So casual about it.
Yeah, very casual. Very casual.
Very casual.
I think it does reflect changing times. I mean, there are certain things that were once frowned upon that aren't frowned upon anymore. In terms of teenagers having sex and the options for birth control and prophylactics and that sort of thing. There are lots of options out there, and so and there's also lots of things like there's child care. There's available to high school students and to college students. There is a lack in society of saying, okay, this is a negative thing. Certainly, and I would hope that a young woman wouldn't be ostracized from her family, but that is what used to happen. And I think it just reflects in general. I mean, at one point, living together was known as shacking up, and it wasn't, it was a negative thing. And now
times are changing.
Times are changing. So I don't think none of this is, people say, oh, these are shocking statistics. To me, this is not shocking. It's a reflection of where we've come in our society, and there's a certain give and take that comes with certain things.
I'm not shocked at all that teenagers are engaging in sex.
No,
that doesn't shock me. It shouldn't shock anybody nowadays. Yeah. But the matter-of-fact kind of attitude that a lot of these boys have towards if someone got pregnant is I don't think they know the responsibility that follows if someone got pregnant.
Yeah.
I think they think, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't think they have any idea how much it would change their life.
How much work it is, how much money it is.
That's the end of, obviously a child isn't the end of a lot of things. But if you're a 17 or 16-year-old kid and you have a child, well, the odds of you maybe going into college are going to change because now you have to work.
My dad says to me,
a lot of different things.
$100,000 per child. That's what he would say when my wife and I were starting to plan our family. $100,000 per child. And, I was like, oh, okay. And the other thing, too, is my wife said to me the other day, I hope my kids aren't watching right now, but she says, when are we going to have the talk? I said, what talk? I said, my son's 7. She goes, they're starting earlier now. You may want to, I'm like, whoa, I'm thinking like 14, 15. No, it's more like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, I haven't had the talk yet.
Sad.
I never had the talk.
Right.
I never got the talk.
And yet you have 2 kids.
Somebody talk to me. What's going on?
Courtney, we're going to recruit you to talk to Patrick about the birds and the bees.
Coming soon. I have my own on the way. But we're talking about teen pregnancy and all these surprising findings we seem to think about the CDC report. We're talking about it on the live blog. Here's a couple of comments we can jump to right now on foxprovidence.com. Lisa says they need to use protection if they're going to have sex. What are they thinking with just going with the rhythm method? And Joseph says, I think the government should have worried about teen pregnancy a long time ago. I think they should worry more about STDs and HIV than pregnancy. Here's the poll here right underneath the live blog. What surprises you the most? Lack of fear of teen pregnancy, increased use of rhythm method, or C, the results don't surprise me. And you can read more about this report. I've posted the link there right underneath the poll. Here's a quick snapshot of our Facebook page. We've got a few comments so far, and Amanda Senkowicz says this is all a lack of parental control, and Aaron Scorpio says that's what the survey results are, but it doesn't mean it's right. So I'll be back with the Roadshow viewers' official poll results in about a half hour. For now, we're going to head